guys, it's me, Josh Lloyd, back another Red Rock video, but not doing a season in review video today because they're all finished. Today I'm going to be looking at something a little bit different, but before I get into that, I just want to mention a site, Fasketball.com, which is set up, operated, founded by Daniel, who's been a loyal listener of the Red Rock podcast for a while now. He's a fellow Australian. He set up a really, really good site over there at Fasketball.com. There is a link which you can click, which you would see above my head. Now you can go and click on that, and over there they've got projections for fantasy players. You can also add your own projections in. Look at that. You can sort by categories you want to punt, remove the categories that you don't want in there for value, averages, totals per game. It's all free, of course. There's up to the minute injury news, Twitter feeds for each team, beat reporters, all that sort of stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff starting up over at Fasketball. It's a pretty new site, so go ahead and check out what Daniel's done with the site, and that's Fasketball. It's spelled basketball, but with an F. So check out that website, and there's a whole heap of fantasy stuff over there, which I think you'll find very useful for winning your leagues when they do start back up. Now, this video here, what I thought I would look at, and this was due to a suggestion coming through from Jasmine on Instagram, and you can find me on Instagram at redrock_bball. Jasmine Sierra, she's been a great contributor on the Instagram page as well, so make sure you're heading across it and looking at that too. Her suggestion was just some guys that finished outside the top 50 this last season who are really good chances to finish inside the top 50 next season. Now, some of them might seem obvious to you, but there's a few there I think that are worth taking a note of and thinking there could be guys that you get a bit of a bargain on next season and could jump up and give you some pretty significant value. Now, when I'm looking at the top 50 from this year, I'm looking at as a per game basis. So these are guys who finished outside the top 50 on a per game basis, who I think could be a decent show to finish inside it next year. First one I'll start with, this is what a lot of guys wanted me to talk about, was Gorgui Dieng, who finished 51st last season. So I think that's almost a guarantee he'll finish inside the top 50. Nikola Pekovic is going to be much more limited this season. He's recovering from Achilles surgery. Dieng showed that he is the better player now. There is probably a little bit of pause with potential, or most likely, Karl Anthony Towns heading across to Minnesota. But I don't think that Towns is going to get a huge amount of minutes, to be honest. I'm not sure that he even gets near 30. I think Dieng will get the bulk of the minutes. Pekovic will play some. Garnett's going to be there. Payne's going to be there. Towns is going to play there. I think they're going to look to force Dieng maybe into the 4 a little bit more, work on his outside shot, maybe increase his threes, and I think he's a pretty decent chance to finish inside the top 50 next season. Another guy who I think will jump up from his ranking of 55 this past season is Greg Monroe. It doesn't look like he's going to be back in Detroit, and I think that does nothing but help his fantasy value. He averaged 16 and 10 last season with over a steal a game. He needs to get his blocks up to be a real fantasy force, but he can easily jump up 10 spots and be inside that top 50. Say he goes to a team like the Knicks, he can go there and average 19 points, 11 rebounds, and really get his numbers up, which would be enough to get him inside the top 50. Isaiah Thomas is another player who was definitely not as good as he was in 2013-14, but still ended up ranked 65th, and it was a lot better than he was a lot better in Boston than he was in Phoenix. There's not many playmakers in Boston, not as many as there was in Phoenix, and he's going to have a pretty significant role. He was amazing in the playoffs. A lot of his end of his regular season in Boston was hampered by an injury, but in the playoffs he was fantastic, and I think that he jumps back inside the top 50 almost without any doubt. He averaged over 16 points a game, almost 2 3-pointers, and 4 assists a game. I think all those numbers, maybe not the 3-pointers, but all those other numbers can go up a decent amount, and he could easily find himself inside the top 50, if not the top 40. DeMar DeRozan, another guy whose season was plagued with injuries. That will be a bit of a theme as you see us go down the list. He was the 67th ranked player last year. Still averaged 20 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, and really key for him, 3.5 assists. But a guy who's a scorer and is the best scorer on this team, he could easily get that 20 points up to 22, 23, get himself up to 5 rebounds, over a steal, maybe 4 assists. He can't dribble, he can pass. He's a great free throw shooter, so once he gets the free throws going, gets to the line, shoots them at a great percentage, he's a significant fantasy guy. And towards the end of the season, he was easily in the top 50, so I think that he can have a top 50 season again next season. Chris Bosh, I mentioned injuries were a real problem. Obviously, they played a part in derailing his season, but I'm looking at per game value, and per game he wasn't that good anyway for the games that he played. He finished 68 with 21 points, 7 rebounds, 1.5 threes. I think that he can get himself back comfortably inside the top 50. He might not get himself back inside the top 20, which is where a lot of people, including myself, thought he might go. But I've got no problem picking Chris Bosh inside the top 50 for next season. I think that's pretty straightforward, and I don't imagine there's going to be many leagues when he's drafted outside the top 50. Another Raptor, Jonas Valanciunas. You would have heard me bang on about Valanciunas and Dwayne Casey pretty much all season. He finished the season ranked 70th, even though he played less minutes than Patrick Patterson and he played less minutes than Amir Johnson, which is a crime against NBA coaching. He averaged 12 points, 8.5 rebounds, over a block a game, which is a big increase for him for the block numbers, considering he was really poor in that area. But if Casey just realizes that this guy is legitimately the best big man on the team by a long way, he should be getting 34 minutes and putting up big numbers, and there's a real chance he could be a top 35 type of fantasy player. Al Jefferson is another big man who disappointed last year, slid from outside the top from inside the top 20 to way outside it, finishing 72nd, averaging 16.5 and 8.5. He had a lot of injury issues. Charlotte was just a mess in general. Maybe the removal of Lance Stevenson gets Jefferson back to his top 20 like numbers. I'm not drafting him in the top 20, but a top 30, top 40 sort of performance will definitely not be a surprise, especially with him heading towards free agency. Al Jeff is a guy that I think has a big bounce back. Same with Nick Batum, another guy with a lot of injury problems. He doesn't score points. We know that. He only averaged 9 points a game. You might, on a good season, expect 10 points, 11 points, but that's not why you want Nick Batum. You want him because he averaged 6 rebounds, 5 assists, can get over a steal a game, 1.5 steals, he can hit over a 3 a game, he can block shots. That's why you want Nick Batum. And with that wrist injury finally getting time to heal, which he dealt with pretty much all of last season, I think there's a lot of value for Nick Batum next season. And I reckon you're probably going to be able to draft him outside the top 50, and he should comfortably finish inside it with those rebound, assists, steals, blocks, 3-point numbers. That's a selection of guys that I think will finish inside the top 50 that were outside it last year. A couple of other names I'm not going to go into too much detail. Bradley Beal, who finished 88th last season, Chandler Parsons at 90, Reggie Jackson at 91, Danilo Gallinari at 117, and Andrew Wiggins, who finished the season 129th in per game value. All those guys have got tremendous opportunities to finish inside the top 50. Make sure you are subscribing to this YouTube channel, not to this podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel, but also remember to subscribe to the podcast, which you can find the link below. There will be a podcast going up tomorrow reviewing the 2014 draft as we prepare for the 2015 draft, so check that out. Follow me on all the social media accounts. Leave some comments below, feedback, criticisms, ideas, anything you want me to do, let me know below in the comments or on Twitter or on email or on Facebook, any of those places. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See ya.